Hello, welcome, gorgeous beings of light. This is Elmara coming to you today with a really important message that I trust will help many of you. Take a big breath in for me to begin with, please. Breathe in. Bring your awareness right up into the top of your crown chakra and hold it there as long as it's comfortable. Before breathing out and bringing your awareness back down into your heart. Breathing in again. All the way up to your crown chakra, holding it for as long as it's comfortable. And then breathe out through your mouth back down. And bring your awareness into your heart. And then one more time, breathe in. Connecting to the light of your pineal gland, and as you breathe out, bringing that energy from your pineal down into your heart. And now I want you to place a hand on your heart, any hand, and just breathe in through your nose and out through your nose at a pace that's comfortable for you. And if you continue that breath, if you have had some of these things happen to you, you might find or experience some gentle healing take place for you. So I wanted to do this recording on the fact that you can heal from rape or any other horrendous things that have happened to you. And I've just had something happen that came full circle, and I just coupled with about a month ago running into a woman who had been raped 40 years ago, and she was still stuck in that rape. She was still, even though she was spiritual and believed she'd moved on, she was still angry at men, and she was still caught in that loop, and she really hadn't moved on at all. Actually, I just want to add that in the background I have a recording of an ancient oak tree being recorded, like it breathing. I just thought it was appropriate to put this in because it is an ancient oak tree, to have that in the background. So if you hear some sounds or you hear some birds chirping, that's what's actually going on as well. I just thought it would be a beautiful backdrop for this because this is a really sensitive issue. And that woman is not unlike many, many women and many, even men, that don't get past that. People get stuck in their childhood stuff and they seem to stay there. About 10 years ago, I worked with a client, and I'd known the woman for like 20 odd years. And she'd been seeing a psychologist for 20 years. And in her first 3 sessions, she just sobbed her heart out and said, "I'm never going to heal from this." And I said, "Well, I don't agree with that, because I've healed from much horrendous more things than you've been through, love. Not that we're comparing, but you can heal from your past." And so I wanted to speak towards that. I will be talking about rape, and in the middle of this presentation or this healing, it's probably going to get a bit icky, but I promise you, if you stay to the end, because it has come full circle for me, I'm sure in healing, in you hearing this and me sharing this with you, it might shift something within you. So I had, sexual abuse stuff in my past. And when I wasn't as aware as what I am now, because I've been doing this work for 45 years or whatever, but when I was 19, I had my head smashed in because I wouldn't have sex with a guy. And then when I was 25, I had some guy rape me. And I spent like the next 15, 18 years just going around in circles, digging up the stuff, burying it, digging up the stuff, burying it, which is what you do when you see a psychologist, because they think that the only way, through the pain, around the pain or whatever, through it, is to talk about it all the time. But really, what I found was to just dug it up and then you'd bury it, and you'd dig it up and you'd bury it, and you'd dig it up and you'd bury it. And so when I was about 38 years old, or somewhere around 35, 38 years old. I had had this horrible, and I just got to this point where I just realised 15, 18 years later of spiritual work, and I had all of these modalities. I had foolscap pages of bloody qualifications, but I was more messed up than what I was when what I called numb and dumb, when I didn't have a clue what was really going on. And I just decided, that's it, I'm not doing this anymore. I'm not doing this anymore. I'm going to stay in the light. But a wonderful, wonderful healer came out from America and shook my hand and said, no, you haven't dealt with that abuse from your childhood, and shook my hand a bit more. And all of this pain came flying up, and I sobbed for the next 45 minutes. I just really sobbed from about 3 o'clock in the afternoon to 8 o'clock at night when I went to bed with a thumping headache. And I screamed at God, if you don't come and help me, I'm going to find a gun and shoot myself. And don't mess with me, because you know my family are hotshot pistol shooters, which they were. And at 2 a.m. in the morning, this massive angel called Jeffrey with a J appeared at the foot of my bed and said, if you're stumbling around in the dark, just turn the bloody light on. Now, he probably didn't say bloody, but the Aussie girl in me remembers it that way. And he said, now get out of bed and get a glass of water and a pen and paper and let's write. And we wrote to dawn from 2 till 6. I got out of bed, cleaned the whole house for 2 hours, not something I would normally do. Then I went for a walk for another 2 hours, and I still had all this energy. And then I got out the notes that I'd written and read them, and burst into tears, because I knew that I had been visited by an angel. And I knew what he meant when he said, if you're stumbling around in the dark, turn the light on. He meant that I had to take that journey within, but I had always been frightened to do that because my family had told me that I was evil or whatever, whatever religious crap they were projecting onto me, because I was intuitive and would tell people when they were lying. So from, the time I could speak at 2 years old or whatever. So anyway, all of that's not relevant. What is relevant is that began that journey again. And I began the journey to go within. And somewhere in that all, a wonderful man called Ken Page came out to Australia with his multidimensional cellular healing. And it was he who said to me, no, if you find out the purpose, and also my first teacher had said the same, if you can find out the purpose for something happening, you can move out of living a life of trauma into living a life filled with purpose. And then he had said the same. I don't believe that you can't heal. I believe that if you find the gifts, you can heal from. Anyway, eventually he did some training here for people to become a multidimensional cellular healing practitioner. And my best friend at the time, Kelly, she did that course. And then she needed to do some, practicing runs on people. And so this is kind of like the bit where it gets a bit icky, guys. So just bear with me and breathe. Just breathe, because I'm sure your own abuse or horrible things that happen to you are awful as well. But if you just breathe through this will be deeply healing for you as well. And so Ken's work believed that if you went back to the very first time you were raped or that event happened to you, and you cleared it then, it would clear it for all, go back to the first lifetime it happened in, it would clear for all of the lifetimes. It would just fall down like a deck of cards and you'd be healed. So Kelly asked if she could practice on me, and I go, yes, like freebie, so, and we're at her place and we do this multidimensional cellular healing. And I am taken back, I'm asked to be and I'm not visual normally, I'm clairaudient but not clairvoyant, but I'm taken back to the very first time that I am raped. And I was a very beautiful, thin, young, maybe about 16 years old, gorgeous long dark hair, olivey or skin, beautiful skin anyway. Beautiful blue eyes, I remember, even though I had dark hair. And I was dressed really beautifully in beautiful clothes and velvet or whatever. And there's all these bloody men, like, having their way with me, raping me, basically. I'm tied to a pole My arms are behind my back and I'm being raped by all of these older men, much older men. And then eventually they just slice my throat and I die. And unfortunately, it didn't heal anything, because for years after that, I still had that vivid, I can still remember I was dressed in a green velvet dress with a white top that had like it was ancient clothing, like I've seen those clothing before. I didn't particularly know exactly where it came from, but it just brought up more trauma at the time, and it was years later that I just went back to. I think that event happened first, and then the Jeffrey with a J event might have happened after that, and that's when we began to work on connecting to the God within me and to connecting to my own heart and my own goodness, and stop trying to find out what that event that happened lifetimes ago. I was just more traumatized by that. And eventually, over time, it just kind of, the light of God woke up inside of me and in every cell, every atom, every molecule of my being. And along with activating the light and the love of who I truly am, it activated my profound healing gifts. And I went on to open a temple in Melbourne in 2009, 2010, somewhere around there. And life just, and in 1997, Source came to me and taught me how to connect to the fifth dimension, and that's eventually why I opened the temple. But by 2000, it took them 2 years to teach me because of stubborn as anything, but by 2000 and the turn of the century, I was teaching people to work with gold light and to connect to the fifth dimension and doing all sorts of healing work. And I really hadn't ever thought about that event. It didn't traumatize me the way that it had 10, 15 years earlier or 20 years earlier when I first remembered that. Or it might have been more like about 12, 13 years earlier, I think. Timing, once you start to get this many laps around the sun, it all kind of blurs into one when it's not relevant when you live in the present moment. It's not relevant. And the only reason I'm telling you this is to show you the profound connection to God and the gifts that come if you stay present in this moment. Breathe for me, please. Big belly breath in. Breathe out everything that's outside this moment. Just breathe and stay present. There is a beautiful, beautiful ending to this. And if you stay with me, you will receive that beautiful gift as well. And so life just went on. I had a temple in Melbourne. I eventually moved to the south coast of New South Wales, lived at the foothills of the most powerful mountain, Aboriginal women's most sacred site in Australia, and just had some really cool things happen in my life. And but I never really thought much about that. But just occasionally I'd think, what was that? Because it didn't matter, because these were things that happened to my body. They didn't necessarily happen to my spirit. And I am a powerful, powerful spiritual healer, teacher, spiritual life coach, because I have transcended such deep darkness. And because I'm able to transmute other people's darkness back into oneness. And that's the key. And so I've been teaching people to connect to the fifth dimension since 1997, so for nearly 30 years. But I also went on and taught about the quantum and the oversoul monad and the Lemurians, and connected to the Arcturians in 2006, and I have galactic friends with the Syrians and the Lyrians. So there's a whole pile of wonderful stuff that happened that was far more interesting than what happened to me in this life and that lifetime many years ago. But just recently, and this is this thing about things coming full circle. Just recently, I had watched something I wanted to watch on TV. I don't watch a lot of TV, but I watched something on TV, and at the end of it, I was just guided to flip over, and Dennis Quaid had a show called Holy Marvel Mysteries or something like that. Anyway, I was just about to turn that off when it said, they were talking about sacred rituals of ancient people. And so they had something about Christ and something about the Egyptian pyramids, and I was about to turn it off, and on comes something about the Vikings. Now, I have always just known in myself that I was a Viking, just like I know that I've been an American Indian and I have 2 American Indian chiefs as guys. That's just stuff that you uncover in your journey. But I just knew, I had no idea where that came in, but whenever stuff about Vikings came on, I just kind of knew that I was a Viking, and I also have Scottish and Irish and English blood in, in my actual physical ancestor line. And next thing it comes up about the Vikings. And I went, I'll have a look at this. And actually, it might have been their burial rituals. I think that's what it was. And so it showed the Viking ritual was, and this is a bit that's really freaking interesting but powerful, showed that when the chief of the clan or the head of a Viking gang, or whatever they call themselves, it wouldn't be a gang, tribe, passed away, they would select a young, beautiful maiden to be with him in the afterlife. And what that entailed was that girl was beautifully dressed. The picture that they showed of the girl could have been me. It was so, she was young and she was beautiful. But all the men of the tribe, like the clan member or whatever he's called, the Viking chief, has passed away already. But all the clan members then have their way with her, so they all rape her, in other words. And then she is killed by them slicing her throat and stabbing her, so she's definitely dead, and taken onto the boat with the clan member, and the boat is pushed out to sea and set alight so that the clan chief can have his way with this young maiden for the rest of his bloody afterlife. Bloody stupid things men come up with, but anyway. But it was just like, oh my God, that was what happened to me. I just realised that just a couple of months ago, a month or so ago, and I had first come across that 30 years ago, and it took that full circle. And now there's no longer a question about that. But at the time that I saw it, a month or so ago, I'm like, it didn't even faze me, because I suppose from God it was a gift to say, you have completely healed all that old rubbish that was, a big part of my life for the first 20, 30 years. So take a big breath in for me, please. So the purpose of this longer than usual video is to say to you, you can heal from rape. You can heal from childhood trauma. If you just keep connecting to the God within you, you are an infinite, eternal, rich, abundant, gorgeous, sexy, radiant, powerful beyond measure being of light. You always have been. But we have been trained by psychologists, by everyone, to focus on what's wrong with us. But you're so powerful that while you're focusing on what's wrong with you and fixing yourself and all of that, that's all you do. You'll be freaking doing that for the rest of your life. And as God said to me 20 years ago when we started to work with my light, you can, if by chance you fix everything from this life, you still have hundreds of other lives that you've got shit to deal with from them. So the best thing you can do is step into your light and let the light dissolve the darkness. I love men now. I love men, and I go into bat for them. I'm the admin of the biggest spiritual group in Australia, and we often have women coming in slamming men, and I stand up for them, and I've written quotes about, if you're over the men bashing, just listen to this. And we are all infinitely powerful beings, and while you still have that stuff going on, you still have unhealed stuff within you. Just breathe for me, please. So I'm just going to, I trust that helps you, and I trust that you'll find help. Get some help. There's over 400 free, powerful divine activations on this YouTube channel that you can listen to if you don't have any money. If you have some money and you want to work with me, I have a 28 Days to Bliss program, which there's some woman who manifested after 20 days of listening to that, she manifested $3,200 a month for the rest of her life. There's all sorts of stories there. You can go find those if you wish. But I also have an excellent 10-week Become a Powerful Fifth Dimension Activator and Healer. That'll teach you how to connect to the fifth dimension. Then how to stay in the light. We have some new people in that now and just having wonderful things happen by staying in the light. And then if you don't really want to know about the fifth dimension, but you just really want to find out about who you are, the program that followed that was one called Activate the God in You and End Your Suffering Now. I'll put the links, there's not much information about it, but I'll put the link to my website so that if you want more information about those, you can just fill out the contact form on my website. I am about to go into an 8-day silence and water fasting retreat, so you won't get me for 8 days. But after that, I'm happy to talk to you about it. And then I also do one-on-one coaching. That is not cheap, but it's friggin' powerful for those of you who have more money but want to work with me one-on-one. And there's over 40 years of testimonials on my website if you want to go and check out who I am and the work that I do. But I really trust that you will at least, if you've been going round in circles and you're still in pain and you still hate men or you still hate women, if it was the other way around for you, that you will step fully into your, or know that you can step fully into your light and all of that pain and suffering will go away. And eventually, if you have unanswered questions like I do, you'll just watch a 5 minutes on TV that answers the whole thing. And I went, oh, that was me. That's what happened to me. That's what happened back then. But it wasn't, oh my God, this is terrible, I hate the Vikings or anything like that. It was just like, oh my God, I understand. It's come full circle. It's completely healed now. Take a big breath in for me, please. And I'm sending you all so much love and light. And please reach out if I can help you. Otherwise, just find something on this site and listen to it daily. Lots of love. Bye now.